everyone, I'm Sloan from SloanBella.com, and I am back with another channeled celebrity video. So let's start off with this man's day of birth, which was May 17th, 1956. So we have a comedian, an actor, an entertainer with a Virgo moon and a Scorpio rising, who has a Taurus sun. Immediately conflict between the metaphysical and the physical, the mundane world, what we do on Earth. I believe that Taurus rules the Earth plane. Anyway, this particular comedian and actor also had a 29-degree Saturn retrograde in the first house, squaring Pluto from the ninth house, okay, squaring it in opposition to Mars, all right? Very interesting, because immediately I go to the ties that bind me. This is the wording I hear in my head, the ties that bind me. Born into a family. Now, this is also interesting because I have read online that his family, through the father's side, was affiliated, but I'm actually getting the mother's side. So the mother's side has a lot to do with this man's energy and a lot to do with how he got through life. Very mother-centric focused, Scorpio rising. Saturn in the first house always indicates an early exit from the most recent prior life. It's an exit and it's quick. A lot of times you have to look at the aspects to Saturn, and you have to look at, the degree of Saturn to determine what kind of exit. Was it an illness? Was it a suicide? Was it an accident? Was it a war? Whatever. But this particular, he has a very critical degree. The two critical degrees, the anaretic degrees, are 0 and 29. So his Saturn's at 29 degrees of Scorpio, meaning he's completely bound through the mother's side of the family and the energy that was orchestrated on him. Now, the mother can either be extremely prominent in her control and dominance over him, or the mother can be the one that avoids caretaking the child based on the other parents, since it's definitely squaring Pluto. You see what I'm saying? So it can be the father dominance while the mother ignores it, or it can be the mother dominance from behind the scene. But either way, the mother becomes a primary focus, and the blame shifting goes to the females or the mother, okay, if you want to word it that way. He also had Mercury retrograde, which means in this life, he was learning how to be a spiritual person. So for him in this life, his thinking was a little bit off. And it's interesting because he passed away prior to Mercury actually going retrograde for about the third time. It goes roughly 2.5 to 3 times a year, depending on how many days each time. It can vary from year to year. Having said that, I'm talking about the late actor, comedian Bob Saget, who passed away in a hotel room. I believe it was in Florida. Now, as soon as I heard this, I immediately, and I know you guys are going to go, this is redundant, put on the tinfoil hat, but I immediately got that it was orchestrated from outside of him, as in it wasn't natural causes, it wasn't a drug overdose. I feel like this was something deliberate, intentional, and repercussions. You reap as you shall sow. So I feel like this man's ending was after a long series of events. And I also feel, for some reason, like he was a liability for people around him. And these are people that are in management positions or in positions of authority over this man's career. His immediate family may not be aware of what exactly is going on, meaning behind the scenes, but let's just look at it this way. And I'm convinced that this was not a natural cause event. Not saying that it couldn't have been, because I do get that the undercurrent was heart. There were like electrical system problems in the body with the conduction system of the heart. So I do get that. in and separately on his own, that he would have had problems in that area, but this is not what happened. And if you have a man by himself or a woman by herself in a hotel room, it's very easy to pin a natural death, a suicide, because who's going to say who's there? Nobody's there. They're by themselves. And it isn't until they haven't come up to their meetings, you know, made their family calls. If you call your wife every day at the same time, or, you know, you go exercising at the same time and suddenly you don't show up, well, they call for a wellness check, right? So that's very easily explained, but through the energy, I feel a backlash with this. I also feel like he's caught in between at the moment. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. He's just caught in between. He is bound by something. He is bound by the family he was born into, and he knows exactly. Okay, so we have this. We have him stepping in front of the camera. It's weird. All day the camera's been moving, and I'm basically sitting here, and so the camera's moving. But we have him bound within the context of the family, and he was a liability. I almost feel as though the time was coming for him. He was a target. He was a liability, and the time was coming for him to talk. So the time was coming for him to talk. Now, what I'm being shown, and this is just how I'm going to word this in reference to his passing, and I did a live stream about his passing where I said I thought it was murder, so I sound ridiculous, I understand. I'm talking completely energetically. This is what I picked up. I don't care what everybody else says. I'm going to stick with it because this is exactly what I get. But he was a liability and was about to come clean on some aspects. Okay, I also feel like he suffered from, and this is not uncommon for comedians to suffer, but he suffered from some sort of depression episodes and thinking that was very kind of sad. So there was a sadness to him around, and there was a sadness in realizing that he had been trained in the wrong way. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means with his comedy, with his acting, with whatever. And he had been trained in the wrong way. I got myself in over my head, and I was trained in the wrong way. I actually feel like this is the sins of the father coming handing on down through this man's life. And I don't really have any experience with him personally. I did one show for 10 minutes where I read, I think when he married his current wife, I read the energy on that. And the only thing I could tell you from the energy I picked up from him is he was guarded and blocked under the guise of a smile. So there's always politeness that comes out, and there's always a smile. I watch if they're overly polite and overly jokey because I don't trust what they're hiding. Okay, so I don't trust what's being hidden behind the scenes. But he had that kind of veneer. But when they announced that he passed, he was a liability, and it was a matter of time. I feel like he knew he was going to pass. I feel like he'd been warned he was going to pass. I feel like it was a matter of time, and he took his punishment the way that he was supposed to. I have no idea what that means. I don't know who's deciding what his punishment is, because as far as I know, his life's up to him on this earth, right? But I feel like there was a certain amount of that. And I also feel that the people around him really liked him and had a great affection for him. So he was stuck in a dichotomy of some people don't really know who I am. Some people know who I am and have showed me kindness because this is the role that I was supposed to play. This is what I was supposed to do. Sounds like an actor kind of in that description. But he speaks like that. So there was a lot of guilt and shame with him about how he conducted himself, where it wasn't maybe what we saw on, obviously we're not going to see what people do when they're in the public eye behind them unless we know them personally. And even then you can know somebody personally and not know them, right? But he had a lot of shame and a lot of guilt about things that went on in his own life and things that he did. Very, I'm going to say something like weird here. Very calculated in his choice of wives, very calculated in his choice of a lot of things, going along with things, being bound from a past life. So I really feel like he came from the most recent past life into this life, bound, trapped, coming in. How does that happen? If I could explain it just from my experience, not even experience, my understanding through the work that I do for almost 40 years, but if I could explain it from this type of level, if in a lifetime you are part of a group, let's just say something like some crazy group of people who do something in one part of the world, and as a result, you end up at your own demise early on in your life. So you don't live out a full life because, let's say you're a drug dealer and you don't live out your full life because you get, and he was not, but you get murdered. So you're like 30 and you get murdered, you're out. Or you're in the mafia, you're out. The connections energetically from those lifetimes and your connection, you're going to want to come back in and work that out. And sometimes there are souls, people who don't even elevate past into, this is the mistake I find that we all think. We think there's earth, life, heaven, or hell. There's so many other dimensions that go on that are not heaven and hell and not, you know, just A or B. And sometimes people get stuck in that murky energy and they come back in order to experience something. And when they come back into experience, they are tied to the same energetic expression, which he was. That is a Saturn retrograde in the first house. He also had Uranus at 29 degrees of Cancer and 5 degrees Mercury in Cancer. No, I'm sorry, Venus in Cancer. And then Mercury was retrograde in Gemini, connected to his South Node. Communications with your immediate environment from the most recent past life. And he left, my last video, I talked about the nodal axis. He left on the nodal axis of Gemini, South Node, Sagittarius, North Node. The nodes have now changed to Taurus, Scorpio. He was not going to live due to his health. Now, this is ironic because I do believe he was taken out early. However that happened. It can happen in so many ways. We're so unaware of a lot of things. But the nodes changed on the 18th of January into Taurus, Scorpio. That would have got him. That would have got him anyway, from his sun to his ascendant. So his health would have happened at that point, and it would have been a genetic predisposition from the mother's side of the family. But they took him out early again. So it's not funny, but they took him out early again, which means he's tied to that 29th degree again, because this was timing off, although he was prepared to die. See, that sounds weird. He was prepared to die. That's actually what happened. So he was in the process of literally understanding and waiting for himself to die, not knowing how it was going to happen. But he did get notified. That's so weird. He was told, you see? Do you see that? He was told early on March of last year, March, April, May, yes, March, April, May of 2021, that his time was coming up, that his gift was accepted, that he was going to be pulled. We draw hats. We draw names out of a hat, and my name got pulled, so it was my turn. This is what he's saying, and I don't really understand what that means. Like, are we playing murder, like roulette through the hats, names in the hat? But this is what happened with him, and he left the planet based on that. This was not natural causes. If they say it's drug, they put too many drugs in. I don't even know what they've said. I do know that if a body, I think he's been buried already, but if a body is being analyzed in an autopsy, the coroner's office takes usually 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. They maybe speed it up if you give them money. I don't know. If an autopsy is actually done, and then, you know, the records can be screwed up. We've proven that in many court cases over time, with many celebrity court cases that, and people, murder victims, that not always is the information correct. And I know this from my own personal experience as well. So the coroner's office, I don't know what they wrote, and they never have it determined until later on, like two months after the fact. But I do feel that he was aware that this was his last time on earth. He wasn't expecting it though, but he was a liability. So he was getting ready to say something that somebody above him in a management position considered a liability. And that I truly get. So this was not a natural death. This was a orchestrated death to take somebody off the planet. He's 65 at the time. And quite frankly, you know, once you hit 50, you know, 50, like no one says you're going to live forever. 50 does seem young. 65 does seem youngish. It's still not young, but he was taken. Now this is a weird thing. So this is how I'm understanding his passing. If you're on Earth, which we are, last time I checked. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're in a hologram. But anyway, if you're on Earth and you have a karmic balance, which you are trying to repay in this life. So you're working through whatever your circumstances are, good, bad, or indifferent, and you're working, and then suddenly you're close to completing that goal, okay? So let's say you're in the mob and you're like doing stupid shit with your cult of the mob people, the drug dealing cult, whatever cult, okay? You're in this cult and you recognize that what you've done isn't right. So you're trying to make amends before you pass, right? Like you're literally trying to make amends, which I feel was where his thinking was, trying to make amends. Somebody on an energetic level from the cult understands that you become a liability because you see things differently. And I believe this with him. I believe he was involved in a cult, and I believe he started to see things differently. If you see things differently, other people are invested in having you not speak that. They want you to not speak that. So they actually remove you out of your physical body through whatever means. There's things, they can shock you, they can laser you, they can inject you, they can do all kinds of things to you, okay? They can stop your heart. I mean, people can do all kinds of things. Somebody hiding in a hotel room with a defibrillator can stop your heart, and there's nothing you can do about it. Shock you, tase you, whatever. And they can hide a bunch of stuff, all right? They can hide it in your freckles. They can do all kinds of things that we don't know about. This happens a lot. Don't ever think things are above board when it comes to this. Hotel room by yourself, kiss of death, okay? But let's say he was a liability because he was going to say something to somebody. I don't know what, but something, which is what I get. He was just about to talk. Had he talked, he would have rebalanced the past life, Saturn in the first house, 29 degrees of Scorpio, the undercurrent of manipulation, sexual binding, all of those things. He would have spoken. He would have spoke about it. He would have revealed something, which Scorpio rising hates to do, but it's squaring Pluto. So the authorities from the 9th house moving into the 10th are coming down on him, okay? He would have said something, all right? And keep in mind, again, it's in opposition to his Mars in Aquarius. It's up there in Leo. So it would have definitely moved him towards the entertainment industry and what he was going to say about something or someone. He was a liability. So this was not natural. I'm just going to say it like that. You have to watch. So they pluck him out. Therefore, the balance is not completed. He was on his way. The balance is not completed. So then what happens to the soul in its recycle? Does it recycle back here and have to deal with this again? I'm not sure about that because he's kind of in that stage right now of expressing what was, I'm getting absolutely freezing behind me, expressing what was going on. There's so many things, and it's like he was confused. So he talks about having a dispassionate mindset towards some of his actions and then recognizing what that was later on. So there was a complete catharsis coming for him. He was about to shed his skin like a snake, Scorpio rising like a snake, shed his skin and recognize and take responsibility, and then he left his body, not through anything natural. And I'm sticking with that again. So once again, my name is Sloan from SloanBella.com.